Kenneka Jenkins. Late on a Friday night in September 2017, a hotel camera in Rosemont, Illinois, quietly picked up a girl in a denim jacket stumbling out of a crowded hallway and into an almost empty corridor. A few hours earlier, 19-year-old Kenneka Jenkins had arrived at the Crowne Plaza Chicago O'Hare with friends for a birthday party, the kind of room party that lives half in reality and half on Snapchat Live. She worked in nursing homes, hung out on the west side of Chicago, and that night she was just supposed to drink, dance, and go home with everyone else. Instead, those same cameras would end up showing her wandering, alone, through the back rooms of a hotel that didn't really seem to notice her at all. On the party footage, you see dozens of people squeezed into a hotel room, phones up, music loud, and Kenneka drifting in and out of frame. Then the hotel CCTV picks up the handoff. She leaves the elevator unsteady on her feet, bumping into walls, one shoe missing. While her friends argue about where she went, Kenneka leans on railings, staggers around corners, and pushes through a heavy door into the service areas she was never meant to reach. The last known footage shows her in a deserted hotel kitchen, stainless steel everywhere, lights humming, no staff in sight. She moves past stacked chairs and prep tables, then disappears off camera in the direction of the walk-in freezers. Hours later, her mother is begging hotel staff to check the building, while security mostly scrolls cameras and says she'll probably show up. She doesn't. Kenneka is finally found inside a walk-in freezer, dead from hypothermia, after staggering into a part of the hotel that might as well have been a maze. The lawsuit, the protests, the conspiracy theories, those all come later. What the cameras show is simpler and colder. A drunk teenage girl getting more and more lost, while the building keeps working around her. Darren Pencille. Early January 2019, Surrey, England. A commuter train, fluorescent lights, and that particular dead morning silence where everyone just wants to get to London. On one of those seats sits 51-year-old IT consultant Lee Pomeroy with his teenage son, heading into the city like 1,000 other dads. A few carriages away, 36-year-old Darren Pencille, with a history of violence and a knife in his pocket, is about to turn an ordinary train into a crime scene. None of that is obvious when the CCTV first sees him. He just looks like another annoyed commuter. It starts stupidly small. On the cameras, you see Pomeroy approach, irritated that Pencille is blocking the aisle. They argue, shuffle between carriages, passengers trying not to make eye contact. At one point, Pencille is caught on audio saying he's going to kill this man. But no one really moves, because people argue on trains all the time, and then sit back down. Until he doesn't. In less than half a minute, that overhead camera sees Pencille draw a knife and launch forward. Lee backs away, blocking, grabbing, his son trapped behind him. Other passengers flatten themselves against the walls, trying to slide past this chaos. In 27 seconds, Pencille stabs Lee 18 times, one blow slicing his neck so badly, there's basically no coming back. The train emergency stops at Horsley Station. Paramedics sprint in, but Lee dies on that floor while his son watches. Pencille flees, helped by his girlfriend, who later buys clippers so he can change his appearance, and searches news reports about the stabbing. CCTV and police body cam footage eventually close in on him. This same man who just tore through a stranger now steps out of a house with his hands up, saying, yes, sir," like he's harmless. He gets life, minimum 28 years. And the cameras that caught a petty argument turning into a frenzy become Exhibit A for how fast everything can go wrong when someone like that brings a knife onto public transport. Iryna Zarutska. On a light rail train in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2025, the CCTV shows what every city loves to advertise: diversity, normalcy, people heading home. One of them is 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee Iryna Zarutska, headphones in, scrolling her phone after work. She'd already escaped one horror, the Russian invasion back home, and was building a new life in the US with low-paying jobs and small plans that suddenly mattered a lot. The camera angle over her carriage doesn't know any of that. It just records a young woman in a hoodie, minding her business. Behind her sits Declo Brown Jr., in his mid-30s, restless in that way you notice for a second and then ignore. He has a history of mental health problems and paranoid ideas about his body being controlled by man-made material. On the footage, he shifts, fidgets with his clothes, glances around. Nothing dramatic. It's the kind of background movement you'd never remember if nothing happened. No one switches cars. No one calls security. It just looks like public transport. Then it doesn't. In one motion, Brown stands, leans over the back of Iryna's seat, and drives a knife into her neck and face. She jerks forward, hands flying to her throat, sliding out of the seat into the aisle. Other passengers only react when they see him move away with blood on his hands and clothes. On camera, most of the carriage just freezes. A few people stare. One man eventually moves toward her. But for long, awful seconds, almost nobody really does anything, like their brains can't process what they're seeing. The train pulls into the next station. Medics run on board, but Iryna is already dying on the floor. Brown is arrested and charged with first-degree murder, and suddenly everyone cares about the long list of warning signs that didn't stop him riding that train. For Iryna's friends and the Ukrainian community, the cruel punchline writes itself. She makes it out of a war zone only to be killed by a stranger on a commuter line in a safe city, with the whole thing watched forever by unblinking cameras. Odessa Carey Jr. In April 2019, CCTV in a quiet Northumberland town starts to pick up a familiar figure. A woman in her mid-30s with messy hair, heavy coat, and a plastic shopping bag that never leaves her hand. That woman is Odessa Carey Jr., long known to mental health services for severe psychosis. On paper, she's supposed to be managed, monitored, helped. In reality, she bounces between supported housing and the home of her 73-year-old mother, Odessa Carey Sr., who keeps letting her in because that's what mothers do, right? One day in early April, Odessa Jr. visits her mother's house in Ashington. Whatever happens inside, the cameras don't see. What they do see is what comes after. Odessa walking through ordinary streets with that same bag, heading toward an allotment. Later testimony says she opened that bag in front of a family friend and kissed what was inside on the forehead. It wasn't until after police discovered her mother's decapitated body at home that anybody understood what they'd actually seen. When officers enter the Ashington house on April 8th, they find Odessa Sr. beaten to death and decapitated. The head is missing. Suddenly, all that routine footage of Odessa Jr. walking around town turns into a map of a crime. Cameras at streets, shops, and properties in Ashington and Newcastle help detectives trace her route and eventually locate the mother's head in a sink at another address linked to her. Every grainy shot of that bag becomes unbearable once you know what it holds. In court, there is no real doubt she killed her mother. The question is whether she's criminally responsible. Missy Bevers. At 3 a.m. on April 18, 2016, a church in Midlothian, Texas should be the quietest place on earth. Instead, its security cameras catch something straight out of a low-budget horror movie. A stocky figure in full tactical gear, helmet, vest marked police, heavy boots clomping on tile. This person isn't responding to a call. They're alone, drifting from room to room in Creekside Church of Christ like they have all the time in the world. In a few hours, 45-year-old fitness instructor and mom of three, Terry Missy Bevers, is supposed to show up to teach a boot camp class here.
Hi.
She's already told her Facebook followers the session will be indoors because of storms. On CCTV, the intruder pokes through doors, smashes random windows, and scans offices with this weird, almost lazy efficiency. It's unclear whether this is a staged burglary or someone rehearsing a plan. They're carrying tools that could double as weapons. They never speak, They never take off the police gear. Around 4:16 a.m., Missy pulls up outside, hauling exercise gear through the rain. There's a blind spot between the main entrance and the area where she's later found, and that's the part every armchair detective hates. The cameras see the killer before she arrives and her body after the attack, but not the murder itself. She's discovered brutally beaten, with multiple puncture wounds consistent with the tools that intruder was swinging around. The tactical ghost just vanishes off camera, leaving behind nothing but weird gait, a slight limp, and an outfit that screams authority while hiding everything else. Years of investigation, gait analysis, and online obsession haven't turned that silhouette into a name. Police release short clips hoping someone recognizes the walk. No one has publicly. Barry and Honey Sherman. On a winter night in Toronto in December 2017, the security cameras tucked under the eaves of big houses in North York do what they always do: watch empty sidewalks. On one of those recordings, an anonymous figure walks along a route near a billionaire's mansion. Steady pace, no obvious rush. A few days later, inside that mansion, real estate agents find 75-year-old pharmaceutical tycoon Barry Sherman and his 70-year-old wife, philanthropist Honey Sherman, dead by their indoor pool, belts around their necks attached to a railing. At first, some investigators call it a possible murder-suicide. The cameras quietly disagree. As detectives dig in, they comb through all the private CCTV from neighboring homes. There isn't a clear shot of the crime, but there is that one person, captured from the side, walking in the area at the approximate time they think the Shermans were killed. This is the silhouette threading past driveways, timestamps blinking in the corner, the empty road stretching out ahead. Police study the stride, the way the arms swing, the fact that this person avoids certain routes like they know exactly where they're going. Eventually, Toronto police do something rare. They release a short clip of that walker to the public and formally call them a suspect, not just a person of interest. Inside the house, evidence suggests Barry and Honey were bound and killed elsewhere before being staged by the pool, turning that one CCTV glimpse outside into the closest thing we have to someone approaching or leaving a double murder scene. Lawsuits fly as media fight to unseal search warrant documents, while investigators insist that revealing too much about what the cameras captured could blow the case. Years later, no one has been charged. A faceless figure threading through a rich neighborhood where nobody expects violence to look like this.
Our world will live is upside down. The planet done talking, things are turning around. Against you and me, him and her. The mother earth is unleashing the wrath that humanity's worth. We know what time it is, 2020 year of the punishment. The COVID hit hard and it's tougher than ever been. The years just settle in. I wonder what is coming, gotta be honest here, the shit is bugging. Aight, come on, you don't stop, you don't stop. What's happening in the world today? You